Want to welcome everybody back for what is the water episode of the Maritime Medical Marijuana Show. Because we have Denis Lanteigne from Envirowater coming to give us some lessons, and he goes into enough detail that we figured this was worthwhile to have its own little segment. So here you go. This is Denis Lanteigne talking to you about the water that you drink, the water that you give your plants, the water that you soak your body in the shower or the tub, and the toxic things that are going to go into you because of that. So,
not trying to scare you, but it's worth a watch.
Absolutely. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, so today we have with us Denis.
Lanteigne, yeah.
Denis Lanteigne, and from, what is it? I-10?
Envirowater,
and he's going to help us as we're getting ready to do our clones here. He's going to tell us a bit about the water, and that's one of the things that we and you guys need to know about the water that you're either just drinking or growing with. So I'll let him handle it from here and enlighten us.
Thank you, Chris, for having us, our company, over to explain a few things to you. I'm going to go over a few simple things, and in the future, if people have questions, we'll do a show on different things, on problem water. There's no water that I can't fix. Envirowater has been around for over 8 years, and we have 100% customer satisfaction. We have 2 guarantees to help people out. It's real simple. We give you the best product at the best price. And if I can't fix it, I'll give you your money back. So how can you go wrong?
Can't beat that.
Well, it gets even better. Okay? Because we give you 30 days to shop around. If you can beat my price, match my quality, I'll match that and give you another 10% back, like no one else has. Okay?
Holy cow. All right.
And the reason why we do that is because we care. We care about people's health, and of course, some of that has to do, I happen to be a medical marijuana patient and grower myself, so I know how important it is. And water is my passion. I'm going to show you a few simple things that people should know. Now, we were talking about cloning earlier. Now, it's so important to start with good water. If you start with bad water, the only thing that a clone has to uptake is water. That's it. And it only has very small channels through capillary action to absorb that water. So if it's absorbing poison, like chlorine in your water, for instance, it'll literally kill the plant or slow it down dramatically. And the same thing happens to humans. The reason why we put chlorine in water is one simple reason: to kill bacteria, okay, and kill living organisms. We killed a lot of people in World War I with it, through gas and all the rest of it. I want to give you a couple of real simple, quick facts about chlorine. In your 10-minute shower, you absorb more chlorine through the pores of your skin directly into your bloodstream. Now, if you think having chlorine in your bloodstream is a good idea, well, I can't help you out. Okay? Here's another simple thing about chlorine. If you take a 10-minute shower, your lungs are designed to absorb gases. Okay? Now, you're going to absorb it 75 times faster through your lungs, directly into your bloodstream, than through your skin. So again, these are simple facts that most people are not aware of. Okay? Now, if you're on a chlorine-treated water supply for 20 years or more, on average, we're not trying to scare people here, but you have an 83% greater risk of developing cancer than someone who is not. So we're living organisms, and so are plants. Plants have are a lot less susceptible. They're more easily stressed because they have fewer defenses than human beings do. Okay. So having said that, do you think putting chlorine in your water is a good idea? Most people would say. Okay. That's why most people degas. And now there's a couple of ways of taking the chlorine out of your water for cloning. One real simple is called degassing, and that's simply putting your water in a pitcher or pail overnight, and there'll be no chlorine left. Now, if you want to know if you have chlorine, you go to any pool supply, or even Canadian Tire, it's called Ortho, and a couple of drops of water, and your water will turn yellow to brown if you have lots of chlorine in it.
My water was awfully yellow, I gotta tell you.
So we're going to show that to you right now. We're just doing a real simple test. It's been a few minutes since I poured this water. So we're just going to put a little bit of water in there. This is Sackville water. And we're going to add a couple of chlorine drops of Ortho, which will detect the chlorine. Now, I live out in the country, and I smell the chlorine when I walk into Halifax water, or because if you can see that.
See how yellow that is? That's the color I look for when I'm cloning, okay? So that's the wrong color for drinking.
So that's on the high side. And depending on where you live in Halifax, it could be brown, which means it's, or orangey, which means you have a lot of chlorine. A lot of times when I go test people's houses, standing over the sink when they're doing dishes, you can actually smell the chlorine coming up from the sink.
Absolutely.
It means you've got lots of chlorine. Now, I'm not going to get into too much more about that. I can talk for hours about water, but Halifax water is some of the best in all of Canada. We have about 55 parts per million of water. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use a TDS meter, which every gardener should have, okay? And it's about finding how much TDS, or total dissolved solids, you have in your water. So we'll turn this on, and can you tell me what that number is, Chris?
Says you need a new battery. 48.
48. So somewhere between 45 and 55, depending where you are in the city. Okay. Now, to put things in perspective, 1 grain of hardness is 17.1 parts per million. So you have about 2 to 3 grains of hardness. So Halifax is relatively soft water. You could say there is some hardness, but and a softener can help, but it's not that big a deal. Halifax, like I said, is some of the best water of Canada. Now, if you go to Truro, Enfield, Windsor, the water there is in the thousands and very extremely hard. By the way, the scale for hardness goes from 1 to 10. 1 being relatively soft, 10 being extremely hard, and there's most of Nova Scotia is over 10. Okay, so the Eastern Shore, for instance, is 10 or above on average. Now that's not just a general rule, not an absolute, because I've found some of the best water and the worst. Example being Tantalum, which has lots of iron. If you people out in Tantalum are listening in, the water out there is incredibly bad with arsenic, hardness, iron, a whole bunch of other, even pH, which of course surface water with pH issues can be a huge issue, either too low or too high on the alkaline side. And if you have green stains in your pipes, well, you might have too low water. But I digress. Let's get back to a real simple test here. So, shoot. Well, I'm going to try this anyway. Chris, what I'd like you to do, while I'm doing some more talking, I'd like you to put your hand in that glass of water. As many fingers as you can down there. There you go. I don't have the timings, so we'll guesstimate it right now, but in about a minute or two, we're going to pull Chris's hand out of that water and see how much chlorine is absorbed, because there's the same capillary reactions happening in your plants as in your fingers. You're literally absorbing all that chlorine in your water, so congratulations, SpongeBob.
Are you trying to kill me?
Absolutely.
With my own water.
That's
what
right.
a guy. It's going to off me with my own water.
So when we test this water, it won't be this color. If I know what I'm talking about, this should be nice and clear in a few minutes. And by the way, we're using cold water, which shrinks your pores and doesn't let you absorb as much. But like I said, we're doing a real quick explanation about things.
So you're killing me softly.
Killing you softly.
Okay.
That's why it takes 20 years or more for people to be, and it can affect you even more, depending how susceptible you are. Some people are more environmentally sensitive to people or chemicals than others. And of course, fluoride's another bad one that we'll throw in at the same time. Halifax is one of the last major cities to fluoridate their water, and this is not from a plant's perspective, this is from a human perspective. Fluoride is one of the most carcinogenic compounds on Earth. If you read your toothpaste and your mouthwash, you're supposed to spit it out. In Halifax water, we ingest it. It's an uncontrolled dosage, and the more you drink, the worse it is for you. And of course, by the way, I'm not a dentist or an advocate or a doctor, but flossing and brushing are a lot more beneficial than fluoride will ever be. Having said that, spit it out, people. Okay, so let's see how well we did with that water. Chris, I have a towel here. You can dry yourself off.
Thank you, sir.
So let's see how well we did with the water test. Okay. Earlier, you saw the color it was. Now, do you see any yellow in there at all?
No, that is totally clear, so I've been chlorinated.
Now,
And I don't feel any cleaner.
If you will do me a favor, Chris.
Sure.
Go pour some of your tap water in there. This is just a...
Add to this?
Add to it.
Don't pour it in.
It should turn yellow because we do this test to show you it's not smoke and mirrors. We're literally putting chlorine back in. Pour about half of that out and then fill it up. And of course, just to show you some of the truth about your water. Okay? Then we're going to get into hardness and all the rest of it. Okay.
See, it's already starting to go yellow.
And that's diluted. That's diluted at least 50% to show you that Chris really did absorb all that chlorine that quickly. So you can imagine what it does to your plants. It literally breaks down the cellular structure of your plants through and of course, the whole idea for cloning and those type of things is that for the roots to are generated from the bottom. Now, if they're being killed by chlorine, your process is going to be greatly decelerated. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's definitely not going to help things. Okay?
Absolutely. Like you said, clones are at the most delicate stage they can possibly be. Absolutely. We need to kiss their little asses, and that's what we're learning.
And as you can see here now, it's already getting yellow.
Yeah.
So just as a little bit of a test for you. Now, a lot of people when they are mixing their solutions for either cloning or their regular plants or whatever, you have a parts per million gun.
Yeah.
So if your water, depending on where you live, is extremely hard, you're going to have a problem. So you might only need 300 parts per million in your plant food, but if your TDS is already over 500, you have to put it up to 800. And of course, because your hardness is going to be so high and your other impurities are going to be so high, your plants are not going to be able to digest your food. If you start with reverse osmosis water, which is the best, which has on average 0 to 10 parts per million, your plants are going to absorb all the food readily.
Okay.
And of course, you'll also be able to balance your pH a lot easier. The reason why that is that the harder your water is, the more up and down you're going to need to do that adjustment. So the cleaner your water is, the purer your water is, the quicker your plant will uptake it, and it'll uptake nothing but food. So I'm going to show you a few more things here today. If you can go pour those out for me, Chris.
No problem.
I brought a few bottled water for people. A lot of people might think that bottled water is better. I'm going to show you some of the worst. And Big 8 from Sobeys is, by the way, one of the better bottled waters. I didn't bring any with me, and that has about 83 parts per million, a little bit more than Halifax water. But again, the optimum, in my opinion, is starting with 0 TDS. Okay? So,
I don't know how much you wanted for water.
That's okay.
One full one.
Actually, I don't need any of this water at all.
Okay.
Okay?
Don't like my water.
We're going to start off with the mystery water. I have no idea where this came from. And we're going to do a TDS test. And I should have brought my glasses. Here you go. I'll need the young fellow with glasses, better eyes.
15.
It's 15. Okay, guess what? This is from my house. Has to be. Okay? Because this is reverse osmosis water. Anything under 10 parts per million, for example, is usually reverse osmosis water, depending on how much hardness they started with and how clean the water is. Okay? Now, having said that, reverse osmosis water can have low pH, so you have to worry about, again, that's why you need the meters.
When you say low, what do you mean by low?
Low pH is anything under 6.5.
Okay.
Okay?
I think my tap water comes out at like 7.5 or so.
Correct. Halifax water automatically adjusts to pH, but when you remove things, usually the pH is affected. Chlorine will not affect your pH. Halifax, like I said, is some of the best water of Canada. All cities, by the way, have good pH because they chemically and physically change the water structure. Okay? In the country, if you have a dug well or surface water, chances are you have low pH. And of course, there's all kind of other issues, from acid issues, all the rest of it. But it's usually softer than drill wells. Okay? So they both have problems. Drill wells normally are much harder water, will have iron issues. Not to say that surface water or dug wells do not. You rarely have pH issues and you rarely have bacterial issues. On surface water you have bacteria issues, you have pH issues, and you have acid rain issues. Okay? So it gets a little bit more complicated, which is why you have to talk to a person like me. Our services are available for free. There's no... Excuse me a moment.
And I just want to point out here, for example, like I lived in Springfield Estates in Middle Sackville for quite a while, and I've watched them dump buckets and buckets and buckets of bleach down in the lake. Okay, so we can. That's where our water came from, and they poured gallons of it all the time down into the lake, trying to get our water right. I mean, I've seen it come out pink, and I used to have to put my kid in it. It's terrible.
And I can give you a lot more information about Springfield Lake. I have a lot of information. I have a lot of clients. People cried it for me to help fix their water there. Unfortunately, it's a private park, and they do not want us to tell people what's in their lake. They also empty their sewage in that lake, and I've seen more cancers. This is anecdotal evidence, of course, but it is quite literally a cesspool, and it should be outlawed. I mean, it's criminal what they're doing.
Well, it's another example of people who have very little money, live in areas and have to buy food that is not healthy. I mean, being poor is the disease because you can't afford to get healthy.
That's right. Now, again, there are simple things we can do to be healthier. Chlorine is beneficial. We need it to save us from bacteria through those miles and miles of pipes. In the spring, when they flush the water and get all that bloody brown mud, you understand why they need the chlorine.
Yeah.
But the moment it comes into your home, it's done its job. Now, there's as little as a Brita filter for drinking water, as little as a $100 filter you can buy on your shower that'll last over a year. There's all kinds of simple, cheap solutions for water. Now, having said that, we're going to do another test here. This is PC water, and we'll find out what kind of PC hardness has and impurities in it. I'm going to do a little test in a few minutes with other water that will really open up your eyes. What's that TDS on that say, Chris?
220.
So this has 220 parts per million. In other words, about 10 or 12 grains of hardness. So this is on the high side, okay, but it's mid-level. The Canadian drinking water standard is 500 parts per million. Anything considered over 500 parts per million is supposed to be not good for your health. Okay? Now, some bottled water companies don't exceed that limit, and some are some of the better brands. Now, hopefully I don't get in trouble with Nestle, but this is Nestle Pure Life. I'm going to pour some of this in here, and then I'll have Chris read out that reading.
You're 186, 187.
Really?
190, yeah.
Okay. Nestle must be, this is the first time in a long time. Nestle, by the way, I was expecting over 500. Okay? So either Nestle, this water source in Nestle has gotten better, or they purified to a certain degree. Now let me, I'm going to do another test on this very same water in a second. But having said that, the difference between reverse osmosis water, this Aquafina come to mind, and some of the bottled water is this purity, this TDS I'm talking about. And what that is mainly calcium and manganese, but there's no Canadian drinking water standard except for bacteria. So they don't test it for anything else, arsenic or anything else, although I'm pretty sure that they would test it for us. They don't want to kill people. By the way, the arsenic level in Canada is 10 parts per million, and so is lead. In a lot of Canadian cities, Halifax being one of them, old parts of Halifax are at 9.9 parts per million for lead. The limit's 10. Okay? So again, the city will provide kits for you to test your water. A lot of times they're well over that. The lead pipes in the old parts of Halifax are not exactly the best thing for you or anything else. Now, having said that, I'm going to do what's called a percept test. Okay? And I'm going to put a dye in here. to get into my lab here.
Is it the tickle trunk?
Okay, I'm going to put a full dropper of Precip B, just a dye, and then I'm going to put another agent, the reactive agent, and this is going to bind to all the impurities, and this should come out almost like milk. If it had 500 parts per million, it definitely will. This will take a moment or two. This is what it looks like. As you can see, this is starting to get cloudier and cloudier. Nestle water would be about 20% solid if it had 500 parts per million. This one here will definitely be opaque in a moment. Having said that, if you're starting at 200 parts per million in your water, in your solution, your plant food calls for 300, and you test your water, you're going to be way over the limit. In other words, if it calls for 300 and you already have 200, you're only going to have room for 100 parts per million.
And the 200 that's there is not anything you want. So.
Well, it's calcium manganese.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course, if you're not absorbing the food, you're not going to have that room to absorb what your food is supposed to be doing. Okay. Also, when it'll also make it easier to adjust your pH. Once you've had your food in here to test for your pH, it'll make it easier to adjust your pH because you don't have that hardness getting in the way.
Okay.
Okay? Now, those are the simple facts of water. If you have lots of iron, I brought a couple of samples here that I treated with the same stuff, but if you had lots of iron and manganese, that's the color it would look. And if you have iron, this is what it would look like.
That was a clear bottle, was it?
That was all clear water, and I put the same chemicals in it, and it reacts different ways with different chemicals from iron, manganese, whatever have you.
Nice.
Having said that, it's all treatable, and like human beings, plant needs better water. Water is, everyone in Canada thinks we have better water. Everybody says, I have the best tasting water, so it must be good, and that's absolutely false. If you're tasting something, you're tasting impurity.
That's
Okay?
not water.
So this is why, when it comes to plants, when it comes to medical marijuana, you want to start with 10 or below. Okay? They're very simple and cheap. You can buy reverse osmosis unit, quality ones for approximately $300. 5 stages, so I recommend 5 stages, just like they advertise with Dasani and Aquafina. By the way, Dasani will be 1 to 2 parts per million. Aquafina will be 1 to 2 parts per million of impurities when you do test your water with a TDS meter. Dasani will be about 32 because they remineralize their water for taste. And we remineralize a lot of people's water for taste because when you have no taste in the water, a lot of people find it boring. So we use coral grade calcium to remineralize the water, and it also brings the water pH back up perfect all by itself when you use coral grade calcium in a reverse osmosis process. So hopefully I've answered, there you go.
It's starting to get cloudy now. It's
And if we were here another half hour, that way you wouldn't see through it at all. Okay?
And that's because it's an. And I just want to point out, I mean, he brought the Nestea, but and you were worried about pooping on him, and I'll poop on him because I remember I went to Walmart there once. They had the big stack of Nestea on for sale, and they had the fluoride amount written on the bottle, and there was more fluoride in the bottle of water than there is in my toothpaste.
That's quite a bit.
Exactly, because like you said, you're supposed to spit it out, and it says if you swallow your toothpaste that you're to call poison control. So if you get your 8 glasses of water today, are you supposed to call poison control?
Well, you're absolutely right, and let's put things in context. If you're a child and your child ingested a bottle of mouthwash, rush him to the hospital. It's that toxic. For the average adult, it's not that important, although if you drink a whole bottle, if you're an alcoholic, you might have some other issues apart from the alcohol.
The venti fresh breath.
Exactly. But having said that, most water is very simple. It sounds complicated, but I'm a professional. I've been doing this for over 14 years. Envirowater, I'm the senior consultant with Envirowater, and we have the only certified water specialist from the Canadian Water Quality Association in Nova Scotia at Envirowater. Not all companies are created equal. If they're not with the Better Business Bureau, and there's quite a few in the water business, that's why we formed Envirowater over 8 years ago, because there's so many bad companies out there. You don't need a license to treat water, which is doesn't make sense in my opinion, and the training certainly isn't there. So having said that, deal with a reputable business, check out the Better Business Bureau, and you can't go wrong. Deal with a professional.
Absolutely. And if you're curious, Denis has offered, and he was there at our last MUMM meeting, and he's offered that whenever he's available for when we have our MUMM meetings, he's offered to pop by with this whole kit. So if you show up with some water in a clean jar with a lid on it so it doesn't get a chance to gas off before you bring it to him, he bring it to one of the meetings. The next one is April 12th, and I don't know if he's going to be able to make it to that one, but if he does, bring your water and we'll get her tested.
I just may, if you do have any questions, if you do want to bring your water, you can call me at 452-5656.
I'll put his number up for everybody.
It's all free. I want to make sure you understand there's no pressure to purchase anything. For people who are on a tight budget, we do have in-house financing, and we do have used and refurbished equipment as good as brand new, at usually half price. So there's no budget that I can't help. No matter how destitute you are, water is not a luxury. It's a necessity for life. And people take it for granted, but they don't know what they're paying for. Having said that, we can make this so affordable, you'll never go back, and you'll have much better health. That's the secret here, is much better health.
Absolutely, because we're going to stop putting poisons in our body.
And every water different. If you're in a country, your neighbor 50 feet away could have completely different water than you. Having said that, in Tantallon, which is notorious for bad water, I found some of the best water in Nova Scotia. So I have all the answers. All you have to do is give us a call. And yes, I will be at the MUMM's meeting. Just bring your water. I will be able to test it for you right there. There's no charge for you.
There you go.
Here is, if you want to support MUMM's, any business you do with Envirowater through me, I will donate 3% to MUMM's or a charity of your choice.
There you go. So get in and talk to this man. He knows what he's talking about, and it's obvious. I mean, it's about your health, because you could be drinking crap like this. Okay, that used to be water.
The same water as the glass next door. The only difference is I showed you what's in it. I brought everything out of suspension. So, by the way, if you like your tea and coffee or your Timmy's, they all start with much better water. McDonald's, the reason why McDonald's coffee has gotten so much better is they started filtering their water, which I was trying to talk to them for years, and they finally listened to me, but I didn't get paid for it, unfortunately. Wow. Having said that, if you like your tea and your coffee, that alone will be more than worth it if you value your good tea and your coffee in the morning.
Perfect.
All right, I want to say thanks again to Denis Lanteigne for putting on that presentation for us. A lot of good information there. He's also going to be at the next MUMM meeting on the 12th, and bring in your water if you want him to sample it, or to test it rather, for free.
Really appreciate that, Denis. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you do, put it in a mason jar, something like that, something that's sealed, so that nothing gases off, so that the tests will be accurate, and he'll test it for you.
Absolutely.
Right on.
And like he said, he's even willing to, if anybody does buy anything from Envirowater, that's it, Envirowater, yeah. He said 3% goes back to MUMM, so he goes, and everybody can benefit from it. So
yeah,
again, thanks a lot.
It's almost like a contribution to MUMM in a way if you use his services.
So that being said, hope you enjoyed the show.
Yep. See you next time.
Peace, love, and hippie shit. Take care.